This is the main room in this house and the main room in Peter's life, which was his painting studio. And so it's an elegant room, but it might have been a drawing room, but no, it's his painting studio, and the whole room is devoted to that. And in fact, all his space is devoted to his work. He was one of the most vital people I've ever met. He first came to this house in 1959, and he didn't have the whole house then, and I don't know which bit he had. But I would say it was quite soon after that he arranged to buy the house. In the time that I knew him, that's how it was. Of course, it's changed quite a lot since he was able to work in full vigour, because in the end he was confined to this room. And so we had to adapt it quite a bit for that. A lot of the paintings that you see here were made in the south of France. He would be drawing and painting there and maybe developing them once he came here, because he did quite a lot of different versions of things. Figures with Vespas or cyclists or things like that. He saw them all the time around, and he might do quick sketches, and then he would do numbers of versions of those ideas here. I think my responsibility is to make sure that it's accessible, that it's known, that people have a chance to see, either through exhibitions or through museum displays or whatever, to get to know the work. And I look for help from anyone who knows better than me, which is most people. In his last years, when his sight was more or less gone, I used to read to him. And because we were reading sentence by sentence, the reaction to all specific things was very detailed and very acute. For instance, I would go and see an exhibition, I would come and describe it, and his memory and his association, he would say, that sounds very similar to such and such a work in such and such a museum. He had it all absolutely at his fingertips. And so there were wonderful conversations like that. I come from being committed to it, so that even where things don't work, I find it very interesting to see in what way it doesn't work or why, etc. And there are some people whom I can show some things to and say, well, what do you think about this? Get advice on things. And the books around the place are fantastic. They're not just the art books, there's a whole range. And I would like to know to whom I can donate that library as a whole. It's very revealing about Peter, actually. I'd love art students to be able to borrow the books and to look at them. And how can I do that? I don't want it to be just the titles of the books. We can catalogue them in that way and, oh, well, fancy, he had this, he had that. But that's not the point of it, really. One of the most useful things that Art360 has done for me was the sessions with Art Archives Consultancy, because they were very sympathetic and very clear about what needed to be done and what order they should be done in, and also how to preserve the work. If the work is to be preserved, it's got to be preserved in the conditions which will allow it. I've been trying to retrieve from the BBC various recordings. There's also a couple of recordings of his lecture on drawing. And there are any number of lectures on various painters with the slides to accompany them, and articles for the Left Wing Review and Burlington Magazine, etc., etc. They're very interesting, and he's very sharp, he's very acute in his criticisms. When the Spanish Civil War broke out, aged 15, he took the train down to the border, and he thought he could pass for for 16 anyway, and join in the Civil War. But his father knew him well enough, I suppose, to send out an alarm at the border and say, look out for this guy. He was very anti-Franco, and I don't think it was Spain per se, it was the idea of it. I mean, he was quite political even at that age. In 1938, he went to Brussels to study. His father had died. He went to Brussels. And while he was there, he met Joseph Herman, who gave him, or I don't know whether Peter bought it, that little drawing which is up there. And when the Germans invaded, Peter stuffed that into his rucksack and cycled off over the fields to escape, and managed to get a boat from Ostend, I think. Thanks to Art360, I had a little bit of direction of which way to go, because I had no idea where to start. And one of the good starting points seemed to be to catalogue the work that we had, to at least know what there is. And we had those plan chests full of drawings, some of which I knew, but a hell of a lot of them I didn't know. So it was really exciting for me to see these things and to see the range. First of all, how hard he worked, And in his early days as a student, there's dozens and dozens and dozens of life drawings, just drawings all the time, which gave him the vocabulary and the knowledge to be able to use figures metaphorically, which he then did in the Disparates and all those things, But also the experiment in medium, not only the charcoal drawings, but pen and wash or pen and ink or Conte or pencil or, all sorts of... He was really experimenting all the time and pushing at an idea. There were a lot of surprises in what I discovered, but it wasn't contrary to what I would have expected or known of him. It was just more. Having done all the cataloguing, or most of the cataloguing, there's still a lot of archiving to do. And then what? I've got this house full. What should happen to this work next? What do I do with all the love letters, if he kept them? I don't know whether he kept them, but etc., all of that. I don't know. Wait and see. Next exciting instalment. I know that Peter would have not liked if people started referring to his private life in a conversation about his work. He didn't like that at all. One of the nice things for me is that the people who've been working, even down to the auctioneer who came to look at the work and value it, got more and more excited and interested in the work itself, which was very nice. It wasn't me saying, look, isn't this wonderful? They were really excited by it, and that's lovely to see. I've found in the course of looking through these things, there are lots of very quick drawings done of dancers or acrobats or things like that. There are also these intimate drawings of figures in Lacoste, like that drawing, the Bellac couple. And the paintings in this room they're all Lacoste inspired, really. There's that very, very beautiful, in my view, portrait, which is hanging above the mantelpiece over there, of a young boy. I don't know who he was. Very, very tender and intimate, of that in-between stage of a boy who's on the edge of adolescence, with a lot of personal empathy, of feeling in it, He had a huge range of sensitivity and feeling, and you see them all in his painting and his drawing.